here we are. This is Sex Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat. Bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
So we're talking about, the impact of this on our estrogen, psilocybin on estrogen and ketamine in regards to the depression and the glutamates. What about some of these hormone challenges that we might experience as a result of trauma? Things like autoimmune issues, Hashimoto's is a big one that I see. Endometriosis, I see a lot. And as a trauma therapist, I see a lot of, root relationship with unprocessed trauma impacting the health of our nervous system. But I'd be curious from your perspective, how these psychedelics might be able to help with that from that perspective.
Yes, I've definitely seen a lot of data and literature around trauma, around endometriosis and pelvic pain. I haven't taken a deep dive into the autoimmune yet, but I know that it's of great interest, and I think it is a promising application and field. As you probably know, women who've experienced any kind of trauma or abuse, whether it's emotional or physical, tend to have a higher risk for pain, chronic pain, pelvic pain, and even endometriosis. And I think the most promising avenue right now in terms of healing that trauma and also dealing with that chronic pain, which also ends up being very psychosomatic. Like, of course, you can have true pain from physical trauma, right? But after that physical trauma or the injury has healed, what you're left with is this emotional pain. It feels like physical pain. But when it's psychosomatic and emotional like that, how do you treat that? It's not pain medication, right? It's not high doses of any kind of pain medication. You have to get to the root cause, as you know, and that's the amazing work that you do. And I think that MDMA therapy is going to be huge and integral for this. The way MDMA works on serotonin, and we know that increases in serotonin not only helps you mitigate pain, but those feelings of love and positivity and joy brings you to a point where you can trust yourself in this healing process. You can trust your therapist in this healing process. And it's opening you up so that you can extinct that fear. You can bring down these learned defense instincts. You can break the patterns that aren't serving you. And trauma is not just any negative thing that might have stayed with you through your life. It's a negative experience that has essentially misshapen your response to any kind of stimulus, right? And it's a pattern now that is ingrained in you, and you need to open up this window of opportunity where you can relearn. And you need to have trust and acceptance for yourself, and you need to be bonded and you need to be trusting of the facilitator or the therapist that is accompanying you on this journey. And MDMA is doing that.
And
so
ketamine.
I think that, and ketamine, yes, and ketamine too. It's amazing. It's bringing you to a place where, just like in childhood, you're a sponge for anything new. It's almost bringing you back there so that you can, kind of open the window and be like, oh, there's that over there. I'm going to go through it and I'm going to relearn this. And alleviating the emotional attachment and burden that accompanies a negative memory or an experience is what you need to process, right? So I think that huge, very hopeful. I think just in general, when I'm discussing all of these, I feel like just a lot of hope. I think a lot of people think that researchers and providers, facilitators in the psychedelic community are treating psychedelics as this panacea, but it's not. There are a lot of different applications because psychedelics have this power to reshape your mind. Reshaping our minds is what we need as humans in order to deal with the human experience, whether it's great joy or great sorrow. We need to turn to this experience, to these altered states of consciousness sometimes to break through. So it's not that it's our answer to everything. It's just that there are so many different afflictions and things that we can experience through our lives, and we sometimes need additional support. And if you look at plant medicines, like, we have evolved with them, we've evolved using them. So we need to continue working with them in that very same way.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex Love Psychedelics.